Welcome to Freya's Fairy Tales, where we believe fairy tales are both stories we enjoyed as children and something that we can achieve ourselves. Each week, we will talk to authors about their favorite fairy tales when they were kids, and their adventure to holding their very own fairy tale in their hands. At the end of each episode, we will finish off with a fairy tale or short story read as close to the original author's version as possible. I am your host, Freya Victoria. I'm an audiobook narrator that loves reading fairy tales, novels, and bringing stories to life through narration. I'm also fascinated by talking to authors and learning about their why and how for creating their stories. We have included all of the links for today's author and our show in the show notes. Today is part 1 of 2, where we are talking to Ellie Holland about her novels. Over the next 2 weeks, you will hear about her journey, how she found puzzle pieces for 20 years to develop her story, listening to reader feedback to know if there's a problem, picking an editor, creating in darkness, publishing your books at the right time of year, her advice to new authors on when to publish your book, and learn the ropes before jumping in. The Portal Guardians, an epic fantasy adventure. An elf, a dragon, a shifter, a dwarf, 3 humans, and a cat. What could go wrong? In a magical library, a young elf studies. Brian had one dream: to learn everything he could about magic to become a powerful cabaret mage. He wanted to travel the world. Right now, though, he must go pick up some ingredients for Erastos. The old dragon always needed something. It shouldn't have been hard. When the mysterious pattern of holes appeared on the ground, Brian didn't mean to step into one. Then before he knew it, he tumbled through a giant hole and into another world. On the night shift, at the Natural History Museum, nothing interesting ever happened. Moira tried to find good in her awful situation. The reason she was a security guard and not in the NYPD seemed like a cruel cosmic joke. She wasn't just a strong black woman. She was stronger than any person alive, and it ruined her life. Now, she had this guy in some sort of elf costume bleeding all over the clean floors. If word gets out that someone snuck into the museum, she might lose her job. And that's when they were chosen. Will they find the others? And should they trust the cat? Join this diverse cast of characters on their quest to find the answers they seek in the first book of the Amalgam Chronicles series, because long ago, the portals were the key to everything. Find out why they're back. The name of the show is Freya's Fairy Tales, and fairy tales are kind of 2 ways, so it's something that as a kid we either watched or read, or our parents read to us, or grandparents or whatever, some kind of fairy tale or short story. And then it's also the journey of you spending weeks, months, years writing your book, and then getting to hold that in your hand also feels like a fairy tale for you. So I like to start off first thing, is there a fairy tale or short story you remember from when you were a kid, and did it change as you got older, your favorite?
Yeah, like every Disney princess movie,
Is there any
basically.
particular one you watched more than the others?
Um, Probably Mulan, I'd say.
Okay.
I love Mulan. That one hasn't really changed, so I love that one. I guess if I had to pick one, it would be like, I don't know, Beauty and the Beast, probably.
And did that change, or is it still the same as it was when you were a kid?
Oh, it definitely changed. I'm like, why are you making these decisions? You're an idiot. Like the whole thing was, uh or maybe like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty would be better examples because it's like, oh, I just met you and I love you, and that's not how it works.
So you are not a fan of insta-love stories then?
No, not realistic whatsoever.
Okay, and then, at what age did you think or start writing, think, "Hey, I might wanna be a writer someday"? Like, at what age did that start?
I didn't really think when I was younger that I wanted to be a writer. I just had a story and I'm like, I probably should do something with this because it's kind of cool. And that started at like 15. I used to write a story and get in trouble in class. I had a Dragon Ball Z fan fiction that I wrote in middle school
Okay.
that I got in trouble. And then right around that same time was when I actually started the story that I just published like 20 years later.
Oh
So
gosh, so you started writing this one a really long time ago.
yeah, I need to find it, but I have a dream journal that I had some really strange dreams. I have the weirdest imagination ever. And I wrote them down. I'm like, this is cool. I should make like a book out of this or something. So I started just piecing it together over 20 years. And then I went through like 2 unfinished art degrees. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. So I joined the 20 books to 50K Facebook group of
Mhm.
indie authors in like 2020, I want to say, in like April, right when the pandemic started, basically.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I think it's time to actually do something with this because the world is like suffering right
'Cause I'm
now.
stuck in my house right now.
Yeah, I'm stuck in my house. People are suffering, and there's so much just horrible stuff going on. And like, maybe I can, you know, distract someone for a few hours with my book. I should probably write this thing now. So
So, how detailed was the dream to get you to the book?
okay, so my dream that I had when I was like 15ish, it was about like a sentient land that could change its landscape whenever it wanted to. And
Okay.
if you are not like an evil piece of crap, basically, it wouldn't harm you in the process. So like it wouldn't hurt innocent animals. So like a
So if you're a good person, you're safe. If you're a bad
yeah,
person, you're not.
yeah, like the ground would like consume you or something. But
Oh gosh.
if you were just like a little innocent like I don't know, squirrel creature or something in my fantasy world, then the land would just change underneath you and you'd suddenly be on snow or something. So that was like one of the pieces. And I had a couple other dreams that contributed to it. But
Okay.
that was like the major one.
So did you actually work on writing it for 20 years or just kept having these random dreams that you built over 20 years into your book?
I didn't actually I guess I kind of just like threw a bunch of ideas down
Mhm.
over the years and like saved them. And then they started making sense into like I figured out who my characters were like 10 years ago or something. And then, yeah, it was just kind of like finding puzzle pieces for 20 years and then finally writing it uh 2 years ago. Wait, yeah. I'm like, how old am I? uh
Well, I've got it. Well, I had it pulled up here because you just released it this year, right?
I the really I have made so many mistakes with this book. I released the
I think that's pretty common for first books.
it was bad. I released the first edition in December 30th last year.
Okay.
And I had a bad experience with an editor, which was like half my fault because I was an idiot. Uh, and then my book was poorly edited, published it, and then I had to get a new editor. And then I did my formatting myself because, well,
Money.
also made mistakes. And so I basically had to like redo the entire book and fix a bunch of stuff. And I had a new editor that fixed it. So then I re-released the second edition March 25th, I want to say. Yeah, something
Okay.
like that.
So how did you I mean, obviously you hired the person, so you would have thought it was okay to start. How did you like figure out something's wrong with this? I need to have it redone.
My readers told me, and yeah, basically getting lots of feedback and looking at it myself. And I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I have an almost graphic design degree, and for some reason, I was blind when I first published it. But then I realized it later. I'm like, this formatting is terrible. There's like letters touching and different lines and stuff. That's not supposed to happen.
You're like, all the
So,
words are smushed together.
yeah, like this was awful. Like, who, what? So,
I was asleep that day.
yeah, apparently. So, but then yeah, so I made lots of mistakes. So many mistakes. But I fixed it all with the help of my new editor and I hired a formatter to fix it and it looks much better now.
So I guess what would your advice be to someone who's looking for an editor and formatter from the beginning? What are things to look for and things to avoid?
definitely get a sample of their work. I didn't do that. Just because someone has edited like 1,000 books
They're good.
doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be good for your genre, because apparently I learned later from another author who worked with my last editor that um, he doesn't like fantasy. He just doesn't really care for fantasy. So, and I write fantasy. So
Right.
I think that he just kind of was like, I want to get this over with, kind of. I don't want to like smear him or anything, but because part of it was my fault because I was inexperienced. But yeah, definitely do your research. Make sure that your editor
Likes your
actually
genre or has done
likes
your
your
genre.
genre, yeah, and reads in your genre and like wants to work in your genre. And then formatters, I don't really have any complaints with her. She's
How did you
very
find her?
she's actually works with my first editor, which yeah, and but it was fine. There was no like conflict or anything. But
Well, I feel like too asking for not references, asking for like other like the Facebook group that you're in, asking for like recommendations would be helpful too.
yeah, I'm in another big group called Fiction Writing, and that's where my editor and my formatter came from on Facebook too. So
Okay.
um
Well, I've seen TikTok
but I love my
authors also
formatter.
ask
Yeah.
for I've seen on TikTok authors asking for recommendations as well.
Yes, my new
Sometimes.
editor, her name is Norma Gambini. She's Norma's Nook on TikTok. She's amazing, and I would highly recommend her to anyone. I don't she's like, she reads so many books and reads so fast and so like efficiently that she's like a superhero. She can literally edit like 150,000 word book in like 5 days or
Oh
something,
gosh.
like thoroughly. Like it's not crap at all. So it's seriously like thoroughly.
Jeez.
And yeah, so she's amazing. She actually works with a ton of pretty, I don't know, famous, I guess, famous or well-known authors, indie authors on TikTok.
Okay.
So she's like constantly busy because she's so fast. So,
So
but it
you
helps. Yeah.
spent 20 years kind of developing your storyline. When did you actually sit down to start actually writing it, and how long did that take you for
Um,
first draft?
I write terrible first drafts, first of all. So my brain works very differently than most people, I think. I wrote 1,000 words a day for like 100 days, and it was like 100,000 words originally. And
Okay.
I think it was like August through September or something, whatever, is that 3 months, September, October, somewhere around there. It was July through October 2020, I think. Yeah, that sounds right. And then,
Now you said you started thinking about it in April. That's a pretty good gap there from April to the
yeah,
fall.
just basically taking notes and learning everything I could from that big indie author group, because there's like
Okay.
6 7 figure year authors in there.
So
Like,
researching for those months, pretty
yes, like
much.
researching, okay, what am I gonna do? They don't really do craft advice, but they do like how to publish, how to market, how to make
Mhm.
money off your books, basically. So I wanted to learn all of that before I published, which they basically told me I should write the entire trilogy first and then rapid release them, and I didn't do that. I probably should have, but then part of me, I have a bad habit of not finishing projects. So part of me was like, if I don't publish one of these books, I'm never going to do all of them. So
Right.
I kind of like had to do what was best for me.
So your first draft
Um,
had 100,000 words, and then what happened?
terrible, terrible first draft. Like I just vomit out my words. Sometimes like I have to turn off the brightness of my computer and type in blackness, like in darkness, and not look at anything I'm typing. So I would just go and like get it all out really quick. Uh and then it's so funny
Okay.
because yeah, I'm like the only person I know that does that.
I've never
um
even heard of that, but okay.
yeah, I'm weird.
If it works.
Yeah, I can't edit as I go, which is way more efficient, and most people do that, I guess, but
To
I
an
can't.
extent, yeah.
Yeah,
So you
but
plowed out
yeah,
draft number 1 in the dark.
yes, basically, and I would find like, it was so bad that I would find, like, random notes for, like, other chapters in another chapter, or I would accidentally have, like, a voice text of me, like, yelling at my kids or something in the middle of a
Oh,
sentence.
so it would've, like, randomly jumped around on you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did that. I was not organized. I once again, lots of mistakes. But, uh, got my huge rough draft out and then had, like, 1,000 anxiety attacks and then didn't really look at it for, like, 8 months. And then
Okay.
like, I went back and, uh, finally went through and edited it to the best of my inexperienced ability.
Mhm.
And then I hired my editor, barely made it on time with my deadline, which was my fault. I wasn't very organized. Um, and then he went through it and fixed what he could. And then I published it in December 2021, and it was still a mess. But I will say that the best thing I did was have ARC readers. Um, I posted about it in a bunch of Facebook writing groups and on TikTok, and I got 250 ARC readers.
Mhm.
And I want to say like 10% of them left reviews, something like that, 5 or 10%, which is fine. I got lots and lots of feedback. And if I didn't do that, my story would not sell because it was a huge mess. Um, I write, I guess my new editor tells me I write like a blend of third person omniscient and third person limited, which confused
Okay.
people. And then I have it's third person point of view. So I have like multiple point of views and I had them
Mhm.
randomly spread throughout the whole book. And my ARC readers were like, this is really confusing, all this head hopping. So I organized it better to have one person's point of view per chapter. They also said I needed more character development because they loved the characters and they wanted to know more of what they were thinking and feeling. So I added 10,000 words a week before I published. I worked like 80 hours that week on my book. So that was great. I really needed that feedback. I'm a strong believer in do what your readers want because they're the ones that are buying your book.
Paying it? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like you don't have to do every single thing. You don't have to
I
fix
mean,
everything,
to an
but yeah.
extent, so for me, well, I'm working, I'm actually researching, I don't know, I started one book and then another book started writing itself, so now I'm researching for the other book.
There you
But,
go.
um, like, in my thinking, it's like and you see these I see it over and over and over again, make sure that you write the book that you want to have to read over and over again as you edit it over and over again.
Yep.
But to an extent too, if you're getting and it's the same in narrating, if you're getting the same comment over and over again, "Gosh, this narrator does" whatever it is they're saying they don't like. If you get it once, it could just be that person's point of view, but if you're seeing the same comment over and over and over again, you should maybe look into it because it's
Yep.
probably a thing.
Yeah, those big ones, those big changes were basically unanimous from my ARC readers. They're like,
Mhm.
"You need to fix this because this is really confusing." So I did,
Mhm.
and now my book is much more, well received. But
Okay, and so when did you start on TikTok?
I started September 2021, and I don't know
Were you
how I
talking about your book at that point?
Yes, I was, but barely. I didn't know what I was doing because 'cause I'm super introverted and I don't like myself on camera or photos, or I don't like wearing makeup because I have kids and I'm tired all the time.
I'm in a
Uh,
sweaty booth all the time, so there's no point for me. It would just all sweat
yeah,
off
there you
every
go.
day.
And it took me like a couple months to get used to doing videos, and figure out like how to get views, which is, do like the trendy sounds and stuff and try to make them all, most of them book related. I followed a ton of other authors, a ton of readers. I just basically looked at what everyone else was doing and turned it into like made it my own without like copying everything they were doing essentially.
Right. So
So I
being
got the hang
smart
of it.
about it.
Yeah, and I like genuinely started having fun with it. So I think that's when my account like started taking off because I have like 8,200 followers now, and I'm hoping by my year mark I'll have like 10,000, which is gonna happen easily.
I'm over here like I think I'm at like 700 something. I had like one video this past week that like suddenly I got, a couple hundred followers on it. It's always the dumbest videos. It's always the dumbest
I
videos.
know. Oh
I
my
got
god.
like thousands of views on this stupid like 15-second video I did about my fan in my booth, but all the voiceover people were like, "Oh my god, there's airflow in a booth? Like where do we go buy this?"
That's funny.
Like
Yeah,
it's the dumbest things.
I have a non-book related video about me being bi basically, and it went like super viral. It has like 450,000 views on it. I'm like, of course it's not book related, and it went viral. Like, wow. But I'm like, you know what? I got a bunch of new like followers that are LGBTQ followers out of it, and I have those types of characters in my books, so it was a good thing it worked out anyway, because now I have more people that are looking at my page and they're
Hopefully
interested.
that also read books.
Yes. But I feel like me growing so fast is because I'm on there a lot. Like I used to get on there like 4 hours a day.
Oh gosh.
I'm a stay-at-home mom, so like my kids are running around the house and I'm on TikTok basically. But I follow people and I actively search for like other accounts to follow.
Mhm.
I think one of the big mistakes that people make um, when trying to grow is that they don't actively try to follow people. They wait for everyone to come to them, and
Right.
that doesn't always help. Um,
Yeah, I try
like
to,
I
like, follow and then, like and comment on, videos that I
Yes.
wanna not on every video, because that's you shouldn't do that on every single video that you see, but on, ones where you have a comment for it, I will leave a comment for it, even if it's, like, laughing faces or whatever, but
Yeah, I definitely try to be an active member of the community. I if it's book related, I've my algorithm is like exactly where it needs to be basically
same.
too. So, like I get 99% book related videos that come up
In
on my
fact, because I was messaging you over the last couple days, I keep seeing your videos pop up all
Oh
the
yeah.
time now.
People tell me that, and I'm like, "Man," because sometimes I'm like, "I really wanna take a break from this," but I can't because then it would take me, like, 2 months to recover from taking a break,
Well, and they
and
must
that's
have just
yeah.
added because, like, I haven't noticed that. I mean, I, message people on TikTok, not all the time, but sometimes, and I've never had it as bad as like the last couple of days. So I'm wondering if they just added messaging people into the algorithm. Because like I have like a lady that I'm talking to right now about narrating her books, and like now I'm seeing her videos all the time too. So I probably seem like a stalker, like I'm just going down her page and liking everything, but I'm like, it's on my FYP. I don't know.
No, people like it unless you're, like, a creepy bot or a weird dude, then you're a stalker. But yeah, once you interact with someone a lot, then they'll show up more on your page.
Right, right.
That's
So
a good thing, so
so what do you do, like so that's how you kind of started, like, what did you, because you just published, so did you go through, like, trying to promote on Facebook and any other platforms, or did you just jump straight to trying to do it on TikTok since that's the thing right now?
Um, I started with well, first of all, the reason why I went to TikTok is because there was a six-figure author that had just started. She made like six figures her first year. And she's you can look her up. Her name is Storm Song. She used to be an author, but she got burned out because she was writing like 10,000 words a day and publishing like
Oh, yeah, Golden Angel, I talked to her a couple weeks ago, and she
yeah.
was talking about her.
Yes, I feel so bad for her because she was doing really good and she was making good money, and I love her video. She's amazing.
But she was putting out, like, a book every other week or some
Yeah,
crazy.
she like 10,000 words a day. She published like 17 books her first year or something. Um, but then she got burned out and got really depressed and took like a huge break. And now I think she's like a tarot card reader, and good for her if that makes her happy.
Yep.
But she's still on there. Her books are still on Amazon, but she got burned out. But before that, she was posting about how, the only reason I'm so big and making so much money is because of TikTok. I'm like, oh geez, I'm introverted. I guess I'll give it a try. uh, thank goodness for the makeup filter, because otherwise I would not be where I am. but yeah, so I'm a sponge, and if someone says something works for them, I'm gonna try it.
Right.
And so that's why I started TikTok. And then yeah, I think I was promoting my book, like sort of a little bit, just talking about it, like, hey, I have this portal fantasy book coming out, and still working on it. I would update my progress. I would talk about like my characters, my writing process.
Mhm.
I actually have a couple super fans that have been with me since the very beginning, before I even published, and they're very protective of me. Like they've let me know of someone like copied my book cover. They let me know about that, and I didn't have any idea about it. So that
Oh
was a big
gosh.
drama mess. But that person promised they would not publish their book, and I haven't seen it, so I think they're fine now. Um, but they like copied literally every single element of my cover.
God, like
And the funny thing is, that particular person reached out to me asking for cover advice, and I sent them to my cover designer. But then they went ahead and just copied my cover. They're like, yeah,
instead of just using the same person, they just
yeah,
did it. That's
yeah. And
irritating.
um, once again, sorry, I have ADHD, so I like go off on tangents. So backtrack. um, my super fans are very protective of me, and they let me know things like that. And they've been
Okay.
with me since the beginning, since before I published. So I have a whole group of them, and they're amazing. They're the ones that arc read my book and gave me feedback and stuff.
So how did you find them, or how did they find you?
I posted in writing groups. I posted in, there's like 5 to 10 writing groups I was posting in on Facebook. I'm not much on Facebook anymore because it's just going downhill, and I don't really feel like it's helping me at all. I get like one interaction every week maybe on there, but on TikTok it's like I gain 100 followers in like a week or something.
I
So
mean, I feel like every social media kind of has its ebbs and flows. Like it'll probably eventually come back around, but right now it's not the thing. So
I honestly think Facebook's going to go the way of MySpace, because it's just
I don't.
it's going down. Like the older generation is using it more, and us younger people, well, I'm almost 40, but uh us
I'm
quote
I'm
sort of younger
early
people.
30s, so
Yeah.
not that much different.
uh but yeah, us, sort of younger people are going to TikTok, and yeah, it's 1,000 times better there. So I started out doing Facebook, and then I kind of did Instagram a tiny bit. I only post like every other month or something on there.
I just
Uh,
honestly, I'm so lazy. I just post like the same thing across like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Like I just post the same exact, like copy, paste. I have a website that posts it to all three for me. And then
oh
TikTok
yeah.
gets my like custom stuff.
Yeah, I need to do that. I'm kind of like lazy right now, and I just
I'm
want to
not
waste
saying there's
time
a
with
lot of
that.
engagement because there's not a lot of engagement, but at least
Yeah.
something is going up there.
Yeah. I'm I'm basically kind of doing the absolute minimal effort right now with social media until I have a couple books out, because
Hmm.
um readers really want to binge read like a whole series
Right.
basically. So I'm waiting till I have like my fourth book out, and then I'm going to go super hard on like all the social media. I might even do like Patreon or
Yeah, I've
Kindle
seen
Bella.
who
There's a
is
thing going
it?
on with that now.
Um, L something. Well, it's the Guinevere series. She always has like curvy women in her books. She's on TikTok. I don't remember her name. It's L something. Always talks about her Patreon and all the stuff that she does on there. I never would have thought of that's a big podcast thing to use Patreon for your extra content and stuff,
You
but
talking
I'd
about
never.
A.K. Milford?
No,
No.
it's L something.
Oh,
Let me see. Hold on.
is
I got my
she
phone.
well-read nursing student? Is that her username on TikTok
No,
maybe?
no, no. It's
Low, what is her name?
L Drew. No, hold on. Let me search
Oh,
it up.
LM Drew.
Yeah, her.
She like Big girls getting railed is her slogan.
Yeah. So she talks about, she does stuff on Patreon and will post, she's like the only author I've really seen talk about it, but I never would have even thought of using Patreon for author content.
Yeah. AK Mulford does that too. I don't know if you've been catching up with her, but she just got a 7-figure deal from a publisher
I
for her
knew she
book.
got a publisher. I talked to her in 2 weeks. I think I talked to her, like one of her friends, Anne, can't think of her name right now. They both live in New Zealand. Anne something writes
Oh yeah.
rom-coms.
Okay.
I'm terrible with names. Terrible with names.
Yeah, so am I.
Anyway, so I talked to her, and then AK wasn't following me at the time, so I didn't ask her to be on the podcast. But then suddenly I look at TikTok one day and I'm like, hey, it says we're friends now. So
Yeah, she follows like any book accounts. She's awesome like that.
well, like mine's different because mine's actually a narrator account, but I'm like, obviously I was a reader first, and there's that, and then I started narrating last year, and so now there's that, and now I'm like, I've always like had book ideas, but I would try to write them, and I'd get like not even a chapter down, and then it would just like fizzle out, and
Oh.
it's like, well, that's not a full storyline, and then it would be done. So now I'm trying to actually like write, and like my first book that I paused is like 30,000 words in right now. And now the other one I'm like way researching because it's going to be like mythology based. So I'm like
Cool.
reading through mythology stuff. I got my husband writing his own book this past March. So now he's like 20 or 30,000 words into his book. Um, it's just, it's a whole thing. So now I'm like fully immersed in this like all things book. So
Yeah.
my TikTok is all readers and authors and voiceover narrator people. So, but it's an interesting, once you get past the initial TikTok of all the dance viral videos and junk that you
Yep.
gotta weed through to find your people, it's interesting to see, the community of, and I don't know how the other sides of TikTok are community wise, but this community is really great. I mean,
Yeah,
the
I heard Book Talk is actually one of the biggest communities on TikTok, and it's so big that Barnes and Noble, we're basically keeping Barnes and Noble afloat.
yeah, the
They
last couple
have
times I've been in there,
yeah.
they have the table seen on TikTok or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes. If it were not for TikTok, I honestly think Barnes and Noble would have gone out of business by now because we're keeping the buying physical books community alive. So,
So I work from home. So I narrate, but I also have a day job, but I work from home for that day job. So I don't like leave my house very often, but like occasionally I'm like, we gotta go like my daughter's birthday, we always go to Build-A-Bear, which is at the mall, and there's a Barnes and Noble
aw.
at the mall, so we always stop in there when we're there. But yeah, I was joking the other day about we need to go to Half Price, and my husband's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, but money, like because
Yeah.
I spend way too much when we go there.
I was actually thinking about seeing what would happen if I tried to sell one of my books to half price books.
That would be interesting. Or like,
Because
I've
I
seen the
don't it's
authors
like
that'll leave their signed copies like at Barnes and Noble, like this is free or I don't know if
yeah.
it's a joke or whatever. I've seen a couple of them do it though.
I saw one lady, she went into Target and signed all of her books at Target and she got stopped by the police and she had to like prove she had to prove that she was the author and then they let her go.
Note to self, put your face on the back of the book so you can just like hold it up. See, it's me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
That's pretty bad. Like getting stopped by the police.
She made a video about it. It was really funny. I think it went viral. But she's like, I'm good now. I mean, people are gonna buy my signed books now from Target.
Ellie liked Mulan as a kid. Hua Mulan is a legendary folk heroine from Northern and Southern Dynasties era, 4th to 6th century AD of Chinese history. According to legend, Mulan took her aged father's place in the conscription for the army by disguising herself as a man. In the story, after prolonged and distinguished military service against nomadic hordes beyond the northern frontier, Mulan is honored by the emperor, but declines a position of high office. She retires to her hometown, where she's reunited with her family and reveals her gender, much to the astonishment of her comrades. Scholars generally consider Mulan to be a fictional character. The first written record of Mulan is the Ballad of Mulan, which is what we'll be reading today. This week on our Patreon, we will be starting Les Morts d'Arthur, the story of King Arthur and of his noble knights of the Round Table. The Ballad of Mulan. The sound of one sigh after another as Mulan weaves at the doorway. No sound of the loom and shuttle, only that of the girl lamenting. Ask her of whom she thinks. Ask her for whom she longs. There is no one I think of. There is no one I long for. Last night, I saw the army notice. The Khan is calling a great draft. 12 volumes of battle rolls, each one with my father's name. My father has no grown-up son, and I have no elder brother. I'm willing to buy a horse and saddle, to go to battle in my father's place. She buys a fine steed at the East Market, a saddle and blanket at the West Market, a bridle at the South Market, and a long whip at the North Market. She takes leave of her parents at dawn, to camp beside the Yellow River at dusk. No sound of her parents hailing their girl, just the rumbling waters of the Yellow River. She leaves the Yellow River at dawn, to reach the Black Mountains by dusk. No sound of her parents hailing their girl, just the cries of barbarian cavalry in the Yon Hills. 10,000 miles she rode in war, crossing passes and mountains as if on a wing. On the northern air comes the sentry's gong. Cold light shines on her coat of steel. The general dead after 100 battles. The warriors return after 10 years. They return to see the Son of Heaven, who sits in the Hall of Brilliance. The rolls of merit spin 12 times, rewards in the hundreds and thousands. The Khan asks her what she desires. I've no need for the post of a gentleman official. I ask for the swiftest horse to carry me back to my hometown. Her parents, hearing their girl returns, out to the suburbs to welcome her back. Elder sister, hearing her sister returns, adjusts her rouge by the doorway. Little brother, hearing his sister returns, sharpens his knife for pigs and lamb. I open my east chamber door and sit on my west chamber bed. I take off my battle cloak and put on my old-time clothes. I adjust my wispy hair at the windowsill and apply my bisque makeup by the mirror. I step out to see my comrades in arms. They are all surprised and astounded. We traveled 12 years together, yet didn't realize Mulan was a lady. The buck bounds here and there, whilst the doe has narrow eyes. But when the two rabbits run side by side, how can you tell the female from the male? Thank you for joining Freya's Fairy Tales. Be sure to come back next week for the conclusion of Ellie's journey to holding her own fairy tale in her hands, and to hear another of her favorite fairy tales.